What's going on, Predators? It's Travis here. I'm just going to do a quick video here. It is a nasty, rainy, cold day here in Texas, or in Houston. So I just wanted to spend some time and come up with a couple tips or something like that whenever you're stuck in the house in bad weather, or in this case, we got the coronavirus going around. Basically what I did is I've done a few things to modify my bow here recently. I just wanted to share those with you. I'll kind of give them as little tips. You can modify these however you want to, make them work for you. But I want to introduce a couple of things for you real quick. It's just a couple of materials that I used for these modifications, and yeah. So anyways, here we go. So the first thing is this right here. This is a what's called the peel coat. See if I can focus on that. Okay, basically what this stuff is, this is Rust-Oleum peel coat. It's a rubberized paint that works by basically when you spray it, just like a spray paint. You can see it sprays just like a spray paint. But what it does is whenever it dries on there, it actually leaves a rubberized kind of latex feeling coating on there. So this is really cool for a number of things. Some people use these for cars. They can paint them on cars and you can just peel it off if you don't like it. Well, I wanted to get a new paint job on my bow, and so I used it for my bow. So this right here is the original camo finish to my bow. This is the Treason early season camo. I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to have a black riser. Also, I wanted to do a new coating on my riser. I wanted to do some paint job because the one that came from the factory was just kind of wearing off, especially in the grip area here and from hitting trees and things like that. Surprisingly, the one on the limbs has stayed, but the one on the riser here has definitely started to come off. So I wanted to do something different. So the benefits of doing this is, one, it gets a very cool looking look to your bow. So you can see I got this kind of graphite looking color. So it has almost like a shiny gray color to it. It's got a little bit of a speckle finish to it, which I'm not a huge fan of, but the great thing is there's tons of different color varieties available to do this in. So again, benefits of this one is that my bow grip now has actually more grip. Again, this is a kind of a rubberized grip. So it actually not only changes the color of your bow, but it will change the texture of your bow and hopefully make it a little bit more comfortable in your hand. This does have a little bit of an insulating property, not very much, but it does have a little bit of an insulating property, which is great if you've got an aluminum riser bow, because these things get very cold in the cold weather. You know, if you're hunting in the late fall and the winter, this thing is going to be like a piece of ice trying to hold this. And I don't personally like to shoot with gloves on unless it's a very thin glove, because I feel like it changes my grip enough it just makes me uncomfortable with that shot. So this simple modification, I just taped all this off, paper and plastic, and covered it up, and then I spray coated all the riser here and made it look really nice, feel really good in the hand as well. But I wanted to take a step further. I've never been a huge fan. If you watch my other video about whenever I did my review of the Martin Max 33, I've never been a huge fan of the grip on this bow. Things that I would change about the bow, one is the grip. It's got a pretty decent grip. The shape is nice, fits in the hand well. But one of the things about this bow is it's got an all aluminum riser. It's milled out of one piece of solid aluminum. So what that does is when it's cold outside, like right now it's about 40 degrees outside. If I were to have my bow out there for any period of time, it's going to be frigid. It's not bad, but I think it just needs some improvement. And I think this is going to be my personal experience for a lot of bows out there, is I don't like the grips that come with them from the factory. It's kind of a blank slate of sorts. And so what I did is I wanted to customize this grip to my hand. To do that, I used this new product, or at least it's new to me anyways. And there's a couple different ones out there. There's one called Instamorph. So this is the one I use. It's called Polyplastics, all right? This is a 10-ounce thing of it, right? You see I've used about half of it from a bunch of different various projects that I've done. But what's really cool about this, the polyplastic stuff here, is that it's really easy to use. It's, insanely simple. Basically, it's just a bunch of little tiny plastic beads that look like grains of rice. So all I have to do is I have to get an electric kettle, or I have to get like a pot of boiling water going, and then I just dump these in there. I usually don't get it all the way to boiling. I usually get it right before, where you can start seeing bubbles appear in the water, but it's not quite boiling yet. But anyways, then you just dump some of this in there, right? And it basically forms and it all clumps together. Then I just get some tongs, some like rubber coated tongs, and then I just pull that big lump of plastic out of the water. once I pull that out, I can actually squish it together and mold it, and it basically turns into like a rubberized plastic. So it's stretchy, almost like if you go back in the 90s, or you remember GAC, or is that kind of stretchy, liquidy stuff. It's kind of like that, but a little bit more firm. So anyways, I can take that and I can mold it, I can twist it, I can pull it, I can tear it, I can make a ball out of it, whatever I want to do. And then whenever it cools, it actually hardens back into one solid piece of plastic. So this stuff is really, really awesome. So I've actually used this so far for two different little modifications for my bow. So the first one, and the most apparent one here, is the grip. I actually customized my grip on the bow here by using this Polyplastics or Instamorph, okay? And basically what I did is there's a couple ways you can do it. So I make a good sized ball of it about like this. I stick it to the back side of my grip here, kind of mold around the sides just a little bit. And then what I do is I take my bow and I come to full draw with it, all right? By doing that, what I'm doing is I'm leaving an impression of my thumb and the crux of my hand, the crook of my hand here on that grip. And that allows me to leave that impression on my hand there. So whenever I'm going to draw every time, I'm going to feel that and I'm going to know exactly how my grip goes, and I don't have to find it every time. And so that's kind of what I was having problems with this bow, is just kind of finding that grip every time. So I'd come to draw and then I'd kind of be working my hand around, kind of working my hand like this just to find where the grip goes, right? So if the riser is, let's pretend this is the riser and it's about how thick it is. Whenever I set it in my hand, it's pretty thick. So if a thin riser, you know, naturally will kind of sit in the right spot. I guess this riser is a little bit about the thickness of that part of my finger. So whenever I would go set my hand in there, sometimes it would kind of land like this, like naturally my hand would want to go to one position. But I'd find that by putting it right there, that I would be forcing torque on it in this direction, even if I wasn't trying to, just with my natural hand position. So what I was having to do was rotate my hand inwards like this. It was kind of an uncomfortable position, right? Because I didn't have any support over here on this side over here. It was just right there on that thumb joint. And I would come and I would be a lot more accurate with it, but it just didn't feel good in my hand at all. It was very uncomfortable. And so I wanted to modify it. And so instead of just doing that piece right there, which you can do, and it'll make it again where you kind of find that spot better. It's a very minimal modification to the bow, but it'll get that grip a lot more comfortable for you. Instead of doing that, what I actually did was I did the whole grip in this plastic. So I made a ball of it that was probably about this size, maybe a little bit bigger. That's why you see about half of that little 10-ounce thing is gone there. And basically what I did is I just wrapped the whole thing, this whole grip here, I wrapped in that plastic, okay? Then what I did is, again, came to full draw here, just like this, where my hand was. Then whenever I let down, I left my hand there, and I pulled it off, and then I let it cure, okay? Some tips for doing this is you can actually mold this as well and kind of push it in whatever direction you want. It does have a tendency to leave little kind of grooves in there, like where the actual like creases in your hand or will imprint on the plastic there before it's dry. So a couple tips for it. One is once you get your grip and everything, you get it settled in and you let it dry completely, then you draw back and you make sure, okay, yeah, that's good. It feels good there. Take a heat gun or a hair dryer or something like that. And what you can do is if you leave it on there for a little bit and kind of sweep it back and forth, those little creases and things like that will actually smooth out. So it'll get kind of a glossy surface on it when you do that, and it'll smooth out. And then I've actually put indentions here for my fingertips too. So whenever I'm out in the woods and I'm carrying it, it'll kind of just naturally sit in my fingertips here. I don't have to sit there and grip it whole-handedly like this in order to make it feel secure. Another thing that I've done that's actually made this bow a lot better for me is that I've actually customized the stabilizer mount here. So this kind of stabilizer, let me see if I can zoom in here. So this is the Outpost from Apex Gear, and I like this thing because it has teeth on it. I'll give a review of that later on. But basically what this does is this holds not only my stabilizers here, but it also holds the mount for the stabilizer. And so basically the issue I was having is that whenever I mount my stabilizers on here, that there would always be a little bit of a twist there. So like this back bar would want to twist back and forth. Same thing whenever I had it mounted in the back hole back here, it would want to kind of twist back and forth, and I hated that. I hated that it would move at all. So basically what happened is I put, most of these things are like this too. Most of these wrist strap holders here, the ones that bolt right behind the stabilizer, they have kind of a wide cutout. And so with that cutout, what ends up happening is that it goes around here in the bow, and the riser doesn't fit completely in there. So then it has a play and moves back and forth, or it twists this way. And it just made a really bad situation. So what I ended up doing was taking that plastic and putting it in there putting it on there whenever I was mounting the stabilizer. And so basically then it molded to that, and it closed that gap so it fit perfectly with my riser. So now I have 0 twists in that stabilizer mount, and so it worked just absolutely perfectly. I couldn't have made better. And this right here is again a front mounting one, so I can mount both of my stabilizers from the front socket there, but also this would work if I put it in the back. If I wanted that stabilizer to hold still and not slip back and forth, which is a huge problem, that will help with that a lot tremendously. I recommend you try that very much so. Lastly, though, one of the most, I think the coolest things about this stuff is just the implications for its use, okay? With this stuff, one of the things that I think is the most important is I can do field repairs with this. Think about that for a second. So you're going out and you're going and doing a hunt. You know, some people, they'll take extra parts with them for their bow just in case something goes wrong. You know, you bring a target with you so you can make sure everything's sighted in. Maybe at least they take that to base camp at least. Bring some of this stuff with you. So you can see that some of the utilitarian things that I've done with it, right? Just think about what you could do if you're out in the field and you have a launcher arm break. What if you have the stabilizer mount go bad? You don't want to have this thing dangling over. You don't want to ruin your trip and have to end your hunt early because of some kind of silly little failure like that. Obviously, if your string breaks, if your limb goes or something like that, you bend an axle, you can't fix that in the field. But for a lot of smaller things, like let's say for a limb-driven system, what if my cable comes disconnected? What if that tears off there? I could use this stuff to help mold it into that limb there so it stays put. I could fix, again, my stabilizer mount with this. I could fix a launcher arm with this. I could fix the capture part of this rest here. A lot of things that I could fix in this in the field just by taking a small amount of this with me. And so what I would have to do is just get a small plastic bag in, fill it up with this. Okay, lock it in, throw it in your bag, throw it in your little toolbox. You take an archery toolbox out there with you. All it takes is hot water. Pour that in the hot water, and you've got moldable plastic that you can fix anything in the field with. And it doesn't even have to be just your bow. You can also fix your equipment. You have a knife handle get messed up on you, or you have a knife handle you want to customize to your hand. You know, the implications of this stuff are really huge, and it's pretty awesome to think about how we can use that in the field in the future. So anyways, guys, that's all I got for you today. Again, stay safe. I know the coronavirus is here. It's everywhere, really. You know, I was traveling about last past week, and there's a few states that don't have big issues with it. I had a really big near miss. So as you watched my last video, you know, I work in the hospitals, and the hospital that I was at, there was a doctor that had been diagnosed with it, and he was working in the ER whenever he had been diagnosed with coronavirus. Thankfully, as soon as I got a great company that I work for, as soon as they heard about that, they pulled me out and brought me back home. I haven't had any symptoms. I'm clear. So good. Praise God for that. And anyways, guys, just think about being safe. It's not necessarily worth it. Make sure you've got stuff stocked up already. It's not worth going out there and accidentally spreading it to somebody. From vast majority of the population here, this virus is not going to be a big deal. But for those few people that it is a really big deal for, the elderly and the younger people, stay inside, stay home. Unless it's an emergency, don't go outside and go get somebody sick on accident. Okay, guys and gals? Again, I appreciate you guys tuning into the channel. Links below. Subscribe to the channel, please. I mean, that's how I grow this channel and make things go forward. Appreciate you tuning in. Again, like the video, subscribe. If you don't like it, let's talk about it. Why don't you like it? Tell me things that you could have done better, or hey, give me suggestions for the next tip video. If you have something that you really like to use, put it in the comments below. Let's get the conversation started, guys. Thanks again, Predators. And as always, keep defying the odds.